Tell us what you're seeing when it comes to pharmaceutical supplies right now.
Yeah, hi, Bertha, and thank you so much for having me. And, I'm really honored to talk about AmerisourceBergen and our role and the role that our industry is playing in getting critical medications out into the market, into patients without anyone compromising any sort of access to medication. So very proud to be here today and talk about our efforts.
What are you seeing right now? There have been some concerns that because of the shutdown in China, we might see some sort of backlog when it comes to generic drugs. China, of course, a center for essential ingredients that go into a lot of generic drugs. What are we seeing right now in terms of the supply chain and for how long we will continue to see supplies flowing?
Well, at the moment, we really are very well prepared. We have long lead times in our supply chains, and AmerisourceBergen would carry, at any one time, for example, $40 billion in inventory. So we have tremendous resources to bring to bear. Of course, in early March, when we started seeing the situation changing here in the U.S., we immediately upped some of our inventory levels for IV fluids, generic medications, some products that we anticipated our customers might be having more demand for. And we run the whole gamut of customers, from veterinarians to community oncology to community pharmacy to large health systems like Jefferson around the corner from where I am. And of course, all of them are going to be impacted differently by the crisis. So you may have less elective surgeries, but you may have more people that are concerned about having their diabetic test strips or their heart medication. They may want 90-day supplies versus 30 days that they usually have. So we've adjusted, working with manufacturers, we've adjusted. And, the situation with China with API, that's a medium to long-term issue. Congress is looking at that. We'll work with all industry participants to make sure that we create the right long-term solutions that come out of this crisis. And for the moment, our focus is on frontline operations.
Stephen, I've seen some questions over the past day or so on how much, if at all, the tariffs between the U.S. and China have had an impact on being able to get medical supplies and components into the U.S. Has that been an issue at all? Would it help if there were tariff-related adjustments?
So, again, I think that falls in the long-term category. We have not had any problem accessing supplies. I think that we're worrying more about 6 to 9 months out, the end of the summer, if anything could happen. But I believe with the help of our manufacturers and with the strength and diversity of the U.S. supply chain, including the broad sourcing global capabilities that companies like ours have, we will manage through this. We also have an excellent relationship. Our sourcing teams have excellent relationships with the global manufacturers we work with. The U.S. market is obviously very essential to their core sales, their profitability, and I believe that our industry will overcome any supply obstacles that we see. We'll be able to, change to other products, deal with other dimensions in the supply chain by really working collaboratively as an industry with the manufacturers and the end providers that we serve, and ultimately the patients that we are all working together to seamlessly protect.
This is Morgan. As we await this coronavirus task force briefing that's supposed to start at the White House at any moment now, the expectation is that we're going to get an FDA announcement, maybe around some potential antivirals that could be in early stages of testing. Given some of the changes, some of the shifts we've seen in recent days around guidelines and regulations within this emergency situation where the FDA or CDC or other healthcare entities are concerned, how likely do you think it is that we will actually see some of those changes to a varying extent become more permanent?
It's just less than 2 weeks ago that I was at a conference, and, it's amazing how the world has changed. And somebody there was involved in the clinical trial. One of the other CEOs was involved in the clinical trial area. And we're talking about the 12 companies that are involved in doing clinical trials on the ground in China and other global hotspots. And, 9 of those 12 companies, or 10 of them, were US-based. And the amount of innovation we have here, I feel in the long run that our industry is going to do great, make great efforts, and will come up with tremendous innovations to deal with this crisis. if any drugs, any test kits, if any antidotes are improved, ABC, as long as those products are approved, we will be able to get them out into the market, as will our industry. We are tremendously adept at getting FDA-approved products into the marketplace. So we'll work hand in hand with manufacturers and with the FDA and the agency, the DEA, anybody we have to work with to make sure that approved products, where there's appropriate supply, will get allocated fairly and efficiently.